You don't need to be a seasoned beekeeper to understand the importance of bees today. And if you're thinking about starting up your own hive, this is the podcast for you. If you don't even really know what it means or takes to get going, you're going to love this. My friend Wesley is going to go ahead and drop the 5 things that people didn't know about urban beekeeping. Urban beekeeping, yeah, it's a little bit different take, but whether you're in the suburbs or in an urban environment, he's going to give you what you need to think about before you get going. And Wesley is an expert. He's not your average bee farmer. Wesley's the founder and CEO of Akron Honey, originally an urban honey company that's transforming into a food-centric flavor company by way of honey. Besides owning and operating a leading regional apiary, he's an entrepreneur, a community organizer, and even founded a marketplace for cottage farmers to be able to provide local food in an urban setting. You may have also seen him on LeBron James's hit reality show Cleveland Hustles, where his business won the $100,000 award, but he had to turn it down and walk away so he could focus on his family, providing balance in his life and keeping his business local. So this, without further ado, here's Wesley and 5 things you need to know. Hey guys, this is Joe here with the National Self-Reliance Initiatives podcast, the Practical Prepper podcast. I'm here with Wesley today from Akron Honey, and we're here talking about urban apiaries and what it kind of takes to get into it. What you need to know if you're looking to expand maybe what you're doing in including some bees, man, and why do we care about the bees? So let's take a look around, see what you got.
Let's do it. Yeah. This is interesting. I know it's this is an apiary, but we started doing like little micro farming type of concept about 5 months ago. It hasn't really worked out just yet because I thought it was like our family would be involved, but then we had twins, and then so I had to back off of that.
Right.
But actually, kind of crazy enough, as I stopped doing that, I realized the entire yard. I know this isn't honeybees, but the entire yard are carrots. So the whole thing, this is all carrots, and we didn't plant them. So
awesome.
I don't know where they came from. They were seeded somehow, somewhere.
That's a hard ground to get grown in too.
Yeah.
For carrots, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mean, they're in there, and there's the whole doggone yard.
It's a little difficult to dig them out in this kind of soil too.
It is. I tried.
Yeah. Awesome. So you got water catch here. You're kind of doing your thing and getting some local water going.
Yeah. One of the first things. This was back in 2013. This used to be like a vacant lot, and it was kind of blighted. Tall grass and a little bit of trash on it. But when I bought it, I didn't want to have to rely on getting city water in here. Number one, it's completely expensive to run new water on here. But number two, I just wanted to be as self-dependent independent as possible.
Right.
I just wanted to be like standalone and do my own thing. Right. Yeah, somebody's calling me, man. It's on the podcast. Jeez, oh man. The only reason I would take a call if it's my wife, and it's not my wife. It is not. It's an 800 number. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, so we got our water catcher there, built that. It's pretty much just a fence, a piece of a fence.
Yeah.
Turned sideways and anchored to the fence, somewhat anchored to the fence, and this big old bin down here catches all the water. The thing is, like with honeybees, they got to drink water too, and because like the legislation locally, they said that you gotta have like a backflow device, and then this will cost an additional thousands and thousands of dollars on top of just running the water here. I was like, man, forget that, man. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this on camera, but I don't care. But they don't need like a backflow. The bees don't need a backflow device to drink water from.
Okay.
It's kind of like we're thinking in terms of us instead of them. It's not like they need Starbucks. It's like they don't need it, So that does them just fine, and they get their water. Shucks, they get their water from anywhere. Like getting some cracks after it rains, some cracks in the bricks out there. You'll be seeing them drinking from that. So yeah. That's
awesome.
why that's there. That's how it's worked out. And these are some of the sunflowers that were sunflower shoots that didn't work out. I said screw it, and they just obviously turned into their full sunflower selves. Yeah. Geez, oh man. So this is back in 2013 we started, and I started with just 2 hives, which is what we have right now. Most of our other hives are at 2 additional apiaries, one in downtown Akron, and then one in East Akron, Middlebury.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. These 3 are dormant hives. These were bait hives, just in case there are some swarms in the area, and maybe the audience and y'all don't know what I'm talking about.
No, tell me about that. So the swarm comes in. A swarm, I guess, is a predatory colony of bees?
It's a good thing. It's
Okay.
pretty much like say for instance, you got this colony right here. Like one colony is one stack of boxes right there. So you got a colony in there. So at one point throughout the, usually during the spring, May, June, the colony then decides, okay, and the queen in the colony decides, hey, it's time to go and create a new colony because there's so many bees in here already, and the honey's coming in. The nectar's coming.
A new queen bee, and she leaves. Is that how that works? Or
well, that's pretty interesting. So when she's laying her eggs, she's the only one who's really like laying fertile eggs, sexually. So what happens is she after she lays a few thousands and thousands and thousands. One of her scouts actually has 6 or 7 scouts that go out, maybe even more than that. It's not like I can count them or anything, but so there's scouts that go out and then they come back with the information about where they the best home.
bee spies.
Yeah, pretty much. And so whoever has the best I guess new home for them, the queen flies to like a branch, and she has her pheromone. They communicate via pheromone as well. They fly to the branch, and then half of the bees, like a big ass bee tornado, they just kind of come out and it's like a big ball of bees, 3 to 5 pounds.
And her ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
5 pounds or 6 pounds of bees. It could be pretty big. Yeah. So that's what a swarm is. It's actually a good thing. That means the hive was healthy and they can reproduce. It's a part of the reproduction.
So does that hive then go dormant now that she's gone, or will it continue to produce?
So the eggs that I was talking about that were laid, so the colony now smells that the queen isn't there, so then they start taking the eggs and pretty much turning them into queens.
Okay.
So we used to think in the beekeeping community that it was royal jelly that made them into queens. Okay. But the bees were feeding the other bees royal jelly. Huh. But it's the absence of bee bread. So they were I'm trying.
Bee bread. No, hit me up. What's that?
It's just a compound they make.
Okay.
I mean,
it's a chemical, some sort.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really like honeybee. The honeybees are very scientific and very programmed. They're not really smart, super smart, but they're really, really programmed and very dedicated. So. In the absence of bee bread, that's what pretty much allows a regular larva to turn into a queen, which is bigger and longer.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
And one of them will do that, or a lot of them can do it, and once the queen's gone?
You can see probably, man, I've opened up a hive before, and it was probably 10 of 10, yeah.
And they have the potential to each then go off and start their own colony, or?
Well, it's then a little bit of a storm at that point, because then you got to start managing a little bit better, because what happens is, since half of the colony's gone, and the new queens have started forming, when they start hatching, those are virgin queens. And what happens is, if you get too many of those queens hatching at once, it's going to trigger what we call after swarms. So then more bees will start tornadoing to different branches, man. Okay. Worst case scenario, I mean, good and bad, but in the city is not that great because people get scared of them. You can come home and it's just okay, you got a swarm up here, there's a swarm on the fence. It's never happened to me before like that bad.
Oh, that's cool.
Swarms have happened because they're going to happen. And that's cool, but it's all about, but you can't completely avoid it, but you can head it off. And this year it was crazy. Out of all my years, out of 6 years, this was the only year I completely avoided all swarming. Wow. I'm so happy about it. But now I'm completely behind with harvesting honey. That's why so many boxes are on there. The honey's towards the top.
Gotcha.
The top 2 boxes are probably completely honey. I know they're completely honey.
So that's the honeycomb up top. You would harvest that out, and then the bees would continue to build down below.
Well, they got all their honeycomb. All the comb is there. Okay. They deposited the nectar and turned it into honey. All over the hive, but concentration of that is in the top.
That's
we
can
go back
right?
there. They're not gonna do anything. Just joking.
Watch the briars.
Oh yeah, look at that. Look out for that. All right. So as you see, so they're in there. Usually during the summertime, you'll see them just like all around there. They'll be all over.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's going in the fall.
So our temperature's down today below 70. We're in the 50s to 60s today.
But it's more about time of year. So like even if in the summer it gets colder, you'll still see them like towards the bottom. But they're like going towards the top now, and because this whole entrance would be just crowded with bees. But it's, you know, again, it's time of season. Right. Man, see, this is my little makeshift water, my bird feeder, so they can come and get the water. Animals come back here, cats and rabbits be messing around back here all the time. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't come back here in a minute, man, because we had those twins.
Yeah. How old now?
They're like 3 months old.
Oh my God, yeah, that's a handful.
Look at them trying to move that leaf.
Yeah. So when you come back, so if I wanted to start a colony, this is kind of the setup I would be wanting to get to eventually.
There's a few different ones. There's a couple different ones. There's this is called Langstroth.
Okay.
And there's another one that's called a top bar hive, and that's just like more horizontal. Okay. This is a vertical orientation, and the other one's horizontal.
Awesome. Well, you know what I'm interested in is, and one of the things we wanted to talk through today is, why don't we go catch a place to sit, and why don't we walk through what are those things that you didn't know that you needed to know about urban apiaries, right? Yeah, let's do it. let's go find a seat.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, guys, so we're here with Wesley, but before we get into the conversation, before I ask him to kind of take the lead here and talking about the things we need to know to be prepared about, for having a urban apiary, and the things you just didn't know, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Our sponsor today is Valley Food Storage, and Valley Food Storage it's a clean, simple food. You can read the back of the packages. It's what I store in my house. It's what I served to my kids for breakfast this morning, and they've got a special offer for you today too. And that special offer, all you need to know is the code NSRI30, NSRI30. If you use that code at checkout and you bought $100 worth of stuff, they're going to knock 30% off for everything you buy over $100. That's really amazing just for being a listener here. So do take advantage of that. And when we talk about Valley Food Storage, they do purchase all natural honey and products like that. Things that you can read, like the word honey is way better than dextro something, 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 and that's what they're all about. So thanks to Valley Food Storage. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet as well, too, take a minute to do that. We've been so blessed by the number of people recently that have done that, and we wanted to reach out and just say thank you for doing that, and thank you for taking the time. With that, I'll let Wesley take it away.
All right, folks. This is Wesley with Akron Honey. I'm here with Joe, and these are 5 things you never knew about urban beekeeping. Number 1. Everybody can't do it.
Okay. Not everybody can do this thing.
Yeah, man. People think that keeping bees is like easy, and it's like about getting honey. We'll talk about that later, but like it's just about getting honey.
Why can't I do it?
You can look. You can do anything you put your heart to, but it's not until 2, 3, 4, 5 months after you start beekeeping when you realize your heart wasn't really in it. Gotcha. So you can put your heart in it, but it may not stay in it. The reason why I say that is because, like we all know, we're busy. Everybody's busy, and everyone has like their daily lives to live. The thing about beekeeping is very time sensitive. It's time heavy. It's a really big time dedication.
So if I was trying to make that judgment call on, I think, honey, I want to do beekeeping, and if she's like, well, how long is that going to take? And I need to be honest with her and not get a divorce later. What kind of time do I need to start thinking about and going, it's about this much a week or a month that I need to dedicate to this?
Well, it depends on how many hives you have.
Okay.
A lot of folks say you should do maybe 2 hives at first. Start with 2 hives. That way you have like a basis of comparison. Just in case the one hive isn't doing well, maybe you can split it and, strengthen the other hive. But I mean, say for instance you have 1 or 2 hives. It could take, literally you could be like tied up for, it could be like 3-4 hours a week.
Okay.
And that's just with 2 hives. And the reason I say 3-4 hours a week is because you're new. You know what I mean? You're new. You're not going to know what to look for. You're not going to know what to expect. You're not going to be able to fly through an inspection like someone more tenured like myself, or even someone more tenured than myself can do. So that it's a pretty big time investment.
Right.
It's a time investment, but then also it's a financial investment too. So, if you don't have all the money in the world to just kind of like disposable income, it's kind of like a business. You got to be ready to part with this money, because you can invest in equipment for honeybee, starting a honeybee colony. You can invest in the colony. You can invest in some beekeeping classes. And then like 5 months after you get your bees, half of them swarmed, or they were diseased or something, and then your colony just withers away, just kind of like slowly dissipates. So I mean, honestly, that's a thing, man. It's a financial investment, so you got to be ready to get to part with your money, and you have to be prepared to not get the return you thought you were going to get.
Gotcha. It's like buying a boat and realizing you get seasick.
You get seasick.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Right. So it's really and that's kind of like this same point is kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that it's not for everyone. So not everyone can do it, but also it's not for everyone.
Just because I can do it doesn't mean I should, right?
Yeah, and so you got to be out in the bee yard when it's hot. You're going to be in the bee suit when it's hot. You're going to get stung in the face. You're going to get stung in the legs and your ankles and on your arms. Not all the time, but it's going to happen. I mean, you're going into a home, you're invading a home of a colony they're all armed. Right.
And willing to give their life. They're dedicated.
Exactly. And they talk fast, and they know they're programmed. They've been doing this for billions of years. It's in their DNA to do what they do, and sometimes that's protecting, in addition to, making, turning nectar into honey and all that stuff and pollinating our entire world. So, it's not something that's for everybody. A lot of folks, most people look at the commercial part. They're exposed mostly to the commercial part of honeybees, and that's the honey. And that's like, okay, well, if you keep bees, you're going to get honey. Okay, you eventually will, but that's not what it's all about.
Like, I'm a gardener. I've thought about getting a hive to help my yield, my garden, my pollination, right? I don't know anything about it, but I'm like, I wish my neighbor had bees. That'd be great. Then I wouldn't have to take care of it, and I could still get pollination. But if you're a gardener, is that a reason to have the passion to take care of bees, or is the honey, like, where's the passion come from?
All right, so let's take that example. And this is something I hear often. I've got a garden. I want my plants to do better. Oh, what better way than to get some bees? Okay, it sounds like a good idea, but here's the reality. We talked about how honeybees are programmed. They're not programmed to give a shit about what you think.
Right.
They are programmed to go and allow their colony to thrive. So if a food supply is better 1.5 miles away from here, that's where they're going.
That's far, yeah.
that's where
crazy.
They're going. If you spend like $200 on some clover seeds and time in sowing those seeds, and then they sprout and everything, and it come April, May, June, you're thinking, oh, they're about to go eat this up and I'm going to get some great clover honey. They can literally go up in this tree and feast on whatever's up there instead of what you just planted. So, I mean, realistically...
And the clover they love, and that's the thing I'm trying to kill in my grass, right?
Oh, yeah,
right?
Don't kill the clover. Don't kill the clover.
My wife's like, well, the whole yard's clover. You got to get rid of that. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So it's something that, you got. It's unpredictable. So if you like things to be predictable, if you think you're going to make money, if you think you're effectively even going to save the bees, I would think twice about starting a honeybee colony. Don't do it for those reasons. Do it. Just make sure, if you do it, make sure that you are ready for hard work, time investment, not knowing what the heck's going on, and being comfortable with that. Yep. At the same time, here's the flip side of it. You may go into it, some people go into it thinking, oh, I want to save the bees, oh, I want to plant my garden here, and they just like fall in love with it for other reasons. So it could be for all y'all. I don't know. It could be, but it's most likely it's not.
Go into it understanding you have to be okay to break up, and you have to be okay with the time that you spent in that relationship being gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then at the end of the year, you gotta like think, okay, do I want to get back into this relationship?
It is. It's like a relationship, right? It could be a bad relationship, could be a great relationship. You're going to spend money in that relationship.
You're going to spend money, and you're going to get your heart broken.
You're going to take her out to dinner, you're going to do all that stuff, and then she might just break your heart at the end. You don't know.
And look, man, it's a relationship.
Yeah.
I've seen so many beekeepers online on Facebook post about how, oh, I lost my bees. I'm just so discouraged. I don't know if I should do it again. Sounds just like a relationship.
Yeah, does
it not sound like a relationship? It sounds the same thing like a relationship. So you got to be ready for all that, because if you do get in there for whatever reason, you fall in love with the bees and stuff doesn't go how you think it's going to go, it's going to hurt. You're going to look at yourself like, what did I do? You got to be strong to handle these honeybees on all fronts.
So much like a relationship, we said it ain't gonna be for everybody. It is also you may not love it the way you think we're gonna love it.
Look, my daughter, she's awesome. She's 12 years old now. It was 2 years ago. I was like, okay, let's go out to the bee yard. Let's I'm gonna teach you how to keep bees, Bella. All right? She's like, yeah. She's down for everything. She got out here. It was like 10 minutes. She was like, I want to go to the car. It was so hot.
Right,
it was so,
I'm
hot. I'm hot. Like, you hot? I do this like for 3 years. And So, so that's the first reason.
Yeah.
That's the first reason. So the second thing that people don't know about urban beekeeping, urban apiaries and urban beekeeping, is that you don't need a lot of space at all.
Right.
So if you found yourself past our first point and you're like, yeah, this is for me, good luck for you, because you don't need a ton of space. A lot of folks think you need, I got to get like 5 acres. Like literally, you don't need all that space.
So your first urban apiary you have here, what size lot did you get for your first one?
This is just under an acre. This is like 0.84 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys can't see, but when we're looking around, there are homes all around here, right? You could do this.
Yep.
You could do it in a suburban subdevelopment if you wanted to, right? I mean, just because you're not out in the country, I guess is the real point we want to make here. Yep. You can get started with it. Now I have a buddy who lives in suburbs, and he started one, and then his neighbors thought that like their kid got stung by a bee or something and blamed it on him, and they snuck over at night and like poisoned his whole hive. Like,
man, yeah.
How do you ever deal with anybody who's like, man, I really don't want the bee guy in the neighborhood?
Yeah,
here.
man, you do. I was having lunch with a friend who owns a bee company in Sandusky. Yesterday we were up in like Ohio City, and that point came up. He was like, hey, I'm trying to do a little bit more urban apiaries. What advice do you have? I said, the number one thing that you can do is get people to love you and get people to love what you're doing. And work on that first. Before you even install your bees, get people to love you.
You need to be a bee evangelist.
Just a great person.
Right.
Not even, look, you don't even have to talk about bees. If you got a neighbor here like I do and a neighbor here like I do, you just go over there and be like, hey, I'm the new guy around here. And hey, I'm just like you. And hey, all right, Akron. Like, and then just get them say, yeah, high five. And then you just be on your way. But when you start, you should definitely, give them a jar of honey. Right. Even if it's not yours, you haven't started yet. Look, hey, this is what I'm about to start doing. I'm about to start keeping bees. They're not going to do anything to anybody. Their eyes will get really big. Yeah. Your eyes will get really big, and but just give them the jar of honey, and then they'll calm down. Like, okay, this is pretty cool.
And they'll tell 10 people about that jar of honey too.
They'll tell a few people. Yeah. If they're 50 or older, they'll post it on Facebook. If they're 30, they'll post it on Instagram. I mean, Right. Did I just offend everybody? Yeah. So you don't need a ton of land, which is a good thing. But there are also some concerns too, because maybe this should be another bullet point or another reason or another thing that you don't know about urban beekeeping. But with keeping bees in the city isn't just you keeping bees; it's everybody keeping bees. It's these people keeping bees. It's these people over here keeping bees. Because although your honeybees are extremely programmed, they'll come out of the hive, go straight up to work, and they'll come right back. There are times where you get swarming, right? And swarming is a neighborhood event. In this country, don't nobody give a damn, because they just go. They love when their hive swarm. I see them on Facebook post about it. They love it. Because, now it's got another colony in the tree right here. And I'll take my shotgun here and so they can easily just get that stuff down. Here, you get them over here, people walk by and they can freak out. Yeah. Thank God we live in an area
pull a can of something, they want to start hosing it down.
Yeah, right? That happened once, man. 2 or 3 years ago, one of my hives at St. V swarmed, and they swarmed to close to somebody's house or maybe on some edge of somebody's house, and they sprayed them to death. I'm just like, and I get it, because they don't know anything about honeybees. But
you just spent a lot of time and your energy cultivating that colony.
Yes.
And
Sweaty days, frustrated, what's going on?
they grew up, they made it, they're headed off to college, and
Yes.
somebody's like, no, we're going to put that down.
No,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm just
Yeah.
going to spray these because they're winged and they probably got stingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a neighborhood event. So even though you don't need a lot of space, the space that you mentally need to own is the larger area around where you're at. Literally, you can just have probably the side of your house, like little portion size, and put 2 hives there. You don't need. I don't need all this space.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I used to have like 10 hives over here. But I don't. You don't need all the space.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the second thing that people don't know about urban beekeeping, but now you do. So the third thing that you probably don't know about urban beekeeping, and with this one maybe just beekeeping, is that it really isn't about the honey. It's not about the honey. A lot of folks think, and this was me too. This was me. I want to, you know what? I'm going to keep a couple hives because I won't ever have to buy honey again.
Right.
But the thing is, that's a reality, but most of your work is maintaining the hive, is checking on them, make sure their conditions are optimal, watching the weather so you know what you can almost predict, and being just very, very on top, proactive with the status of your hives. Being a great animal husband, practicing great animal husbandry is a really big deal too. Yeah. And because of that, maybe you'll be able to harvest a couple times a year.
Right.
So literally, all your work is something else.
And I do maple syrup, right? So
you should have told me that.
Yeah, we do maple syrup. And so for me, the event of tapping all the trees, harvesting all the maple water, getting it all together, and you boil it down, and you get like this maple. You get like this little bitty portion. I get 1 bottle, and you're like, man, that was a lot of work. You can't do it just for the syrup.
Right.
It's got to be something you just do with your kids, and you have fun, and it's a hobby, and that makes it worthwhile. But
and we only, beekeepers only know this and learn this from just like getting into it. And we all think, okay, yeah, we can get a big, huge yield. We can change that narrative. Nah, you can't change the narrative. The weather has something to do with it. The race of the bees have something to do with it. How good, really, it's how good you are as a keeper. That's what it's about, folks, is how good you are as a keeper. But there are a lot of other factors too. But at the end of the day, it's not about honey. You got to make it about the honeybees.
Great. Yeah.
Number 3. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Number 4, the fourth thing that you, Marty, and everybody out there, you probably don't know about urban beekeeping is that the honey is freaking insane.
All right, tell me about this.
Insane. So, we're used to, and I'm including myself into this as well, we're used to, as consumers, honey that comes from store shelves. Now, the store shelves, they're going to cater to companies that can produce a lot. Now, in order to produce a lot, most likely we get it from the rural areas where there's usually something we call monoculture. So pretty much it's like one crop, one big crop. Maybe it's like clover or what they call wildflower or buckwheat. So they can label buckwheat honey, a little bit more consumer friendly. However, in the city, how our honey tastes is based on what everyone's growing around here. Most of the forage, too, what we call forage is bee food. So most of the forage is in the trees. It's all in the trees.
Wow.
You'll see it. So like you got, for instance, black locust. That's like such an awesome, and that's like a black locust tree right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This right here, this is black locust. You can't really tell like right now, but during the bloom season, it's just like big, beautiful white flowers just draping over. So you got like plants and crops like that. That just like illuminate the entire city, and it smells so good. But that mostly it comes from like the trees. And since you got a lot of tree forage, like both intentional and then like wild, and then all the neighbors are planting anything that they plant, you get a nice, amazing texture to the honey. Some of this honey is almost like spicy a little bit. It's got a little spice to it, a little like cinnamon timbre to it. So it's like pretty amazing, yeah.
And when you think about how they designed urban neighborhoods 50 years ago, they started building all the homes, and they came through and planted a small little dogwood, locust, something on the street.
Yeah.
And now you've got these gorgeous arbors over a lot of these streets
Yeah.
that contain all those flowers you're thinking about. It's really an amazing design for where am I going to get all the forage, because you've got a complete arbor that you can dine in. Right?
Yeah, thanks viewers and builders. Thanks builders for doing that. Not viewers, but maybe you're a builder and also a viewer. Yeah. But yeah, thanks builders for doing that.
If you are 70 years old and happen to build a neighborhood
in our on Facebook
50 years ago.
Same time.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm going to stop saying that. I'm probably pissing people off. I'm on Facebook too. Yeah. I'm on Facebook too. So are my parents. You know, my wife is as well. But yeah, the taste of the honey is freaking insane, man. I wish I had.
Yeah. I've had it where it has like almost a mint tinge to it too.
That's what yes!
I didn't like it though. I didn't like that.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
That palate, man. Just
Marty.
It's just the mint. I didn't.
That's okay. I ain't gonna hate.
Honey, I'm just like, oh, this has like
store honey.
But that is honey. That's the thing. Like we've been trained to think this.
The cinnamon one that interests me.
Well, this is what we do, and I'm not trying to plug Akron Honey or anything, but it's going to happen. So, like, with when I started the actual business part of Akron Honey, I was like, I want to do things differently. So I realized that in the production process with, like, harvesting honey, most big corporations, the commercial beekeepers, they ultra-filter it, right? So they filter their honey down to, like, micron level. Beekeepers will also do, not as bad, well, at least strain it and definitely filter it to be more consumer ready. Me, I don't filter anything, I don't strain anything. I let gravity take all the crap to the top, and then I just kind of get it from the bottom from the spigot. That's pretty much. And then also I don't mix batches. From, like, say for instance you go to the store and you see some clover honey. That clover honey could have come from different places, and it's all mixed together, but it's still clover because it's clover here and clover there. Me, I don't do that. I don't mix batches and I don't mix seasons together, so you get the purity of that season and of that place.
It's like a small batch whiskey, right? It's you get that particular instance of what you're going after.
Yeah, and all from the neighborhood. This is literally the neighbors are the ones, the citizens are the ones who created this by growing what they grew in their front yards and their backyards. Sure. This is the fifth thing that people don't realize about urban beekeeping, and also just beekeeping in general. And this is going to break some hearts. I'm about to make everybody mad. Look, I'm a disruptor. Like, I don't care. I'm not trying to, preserve people's feelings. I'm just going to tell how it is. Just by having honeybees, you're not saving the bees.
Oh, man. Just broke some hearts.
I did, and I just lost some sponsors, too.
Tell me about that. Yeah, give me lay it out. When you say you're not saving the bees, but, man, you're setting up all these hives. You got to be, you're dividing colonies into more hives. I mean, it kind of seems like you're saving the bees.
It could play a part in saving the bees, but you're effectively not saving the bees just by having honeybees. Honeybees don't need us. The honeybees come from the wild. They make their homes traditionally in, like, hollowed out objects, most commonly trees, dead out trees or whatever. And we're putting them in these boxes that are much thinner, and we're using them for commercial purposes. Most of the country uses them for commercial purposes. So that's really not saving the bees. What it does is it creates and draws attention to the importance of honeybees. That's what's actually helping to save the bees more than just having the colony. I hear it so many times, like, I want to be a beekeeper. Like, why? Because I want to save the bees. Like, well, look, Jack, you might want to just plant some flowers out before you think of spending all that money on a bee colony.
It's interesting you say that, too, because in my neck, there's farms, like acres and acres of farms near my property. And I see them out there spraying the crops, right?
Yes.
And so when I'm thinking about, man, I want to put out, I'm a little bit more in the country, and I can maybe put a hive out here, and I'm like, but maybe they actually come in contact with less pesticides here than they probably do in the rural areas.
Yeah, so I don't have I don't have empirical data to back that up, but I'm going to tell you that's true.
Yeah.
Because yes, here's a couple things we do know. What you just said is correct. There is large amounts of spraying going on in rural areas, and it's the farmers kind of got to do that. They don't have to, but because of economic reasons, it's kind of forcing them to. You got that, but then here you don't have that. The most spraying we have comes from what I've seen, two sources. Number one, when we spray annually for mosquitoes, that's just one time. Okay, cool. Okay. But then also when like neighbors are spraying like for their weeds and stuff. Yeah, but it's not enough of that going on, and it's not getting up in the trees where most of the forage is at. So I mean,
crop dusting is a different story out on the farm, right? I see the little planes take off. There's a little runway not far from my house, and the crop dusters will take off and dust the crops, man. And you're going, man, that is everywhere, right?
I couldn't keep bees in country, man. I love the country, but I couldn't keep bees out.
Well, I think that just speaks to the importance of, urban apiaries is that we are seeing declines in bees overall. And keeping a beehive is not the reason to save the bees. But moving it, there's a lot of good points you've given as to why it's not a bad idea to do.
Yeah.
If you love it,
if
it's a good relationship,
right.
then it's not a bad thing to do in the city as opposed to just only doing it out on a farm.
Correct. Now there are ways, and let me just kind of play devil's advocate to the thing I just said. Okay. So to my main point. So let me just undo what I just said.
Yeah, let's undo it.
Right. So pretty much, you can become a beekeeper and use your beekeeping venture or just your hobby to save the bees. I'm gonna tell you how. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks think, if I become a beekeeper, I'll save the bees. We already talked about that. That's not true. Mm-hmm. If I harvest honey, it's better for them or whatever, or I'm treating the bees with some chemicals that will, reduce varroa mite. I'm saving the bees. Gotcha. Not necessarily true. What the most impactful thing that will save the bees is getting to this young generation, like our kids, and start teaching them young about honeybees and their role that they play. Mm-hmm. Because the reason why people are spraying is because there's someone who came up who's a brainiac, who was once a little kid who grew up and came up with a formula to spray the crops. There are people who are in legislation who used to be little kids who grew up to be, senators or whatever, and they're helping to decide, it's okay to do this. But if you get kids young,
your dad probably owns a bean farm somewhere, right? Yeah. I mean, it's the family. They talk about selling the family farm. We are still most of the land in the United States is still planting crops,
right.
And the number one thing that people who grow crops hate is pests. And if you think of bees as a pest, they're now an enemy and not a friend. We got to change that dialogue.
Yeah. So if you get to the kids and instill in them like, hey, honeybees are our friends. They're very important. They grow up even understanding like the economic side of like farming. They have the wherewithal and the priority to say, well, let's create some sort of creative solution for this that's devoid of doing something that could hurt this thing that's so important to us.
How do they live together? Because they are important to each other. The bees without the plants and the plants without the bees is kind of a dumb way to pick one, right?
Exactly.
So, it's a great way to start to stir the dialogue. So creating it and thinking of it as, could it be a side hustle? Sure, it could be. Could it be a hobby? Probably better as a hobby than thinking it's going to be a side hustle.
It could be a side hustle. I mean, I'm trying to like knock anybody. I hope there's it's funny, like there was a honeybee, someone has a hive like pretty much across the street over here, and most people think like, that's Wesley may be like, he doesn't like that. Like, I don't care. Like they can have a hive, they can harvest honey. I mean, we have different customer bases, and even if we did, I'm not worried about it.
There's plenty of space for the bees to be.
Yeah, people going to be have been consuming honey in increasingly ways, like over the years. So it's not a big deal. And even if it's a crowded space, fine, I'll do something else. I'll start keeping yellow jackets.
Right. Wait a minute.
I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not. Yeah, I'm just joking. Yeah.
No, so tell me if you had to kind of give think about parting wisdom for anybody who has listened to this podcast and has said, all right, now I get it. I get why that's important to not only have bees in the country. You can do this in an urban setting, and I understand the heartbreak that might beset me if I take this on, and all the reasons to set aside. I just love bees. I want to save the bees and all this. We set all this stuff aside. What do if they're like, man, now I do want to get into it. I've kind of understand where I'm at. You've set me straight. What do I do next?
Cool. Just jump in it.
Do you need to have a mentor, or can you just start Googling it and figure it out?
I would have a mentor.
How do you find one?
Get hooked up with your county beekeeping association.
Okay.
So, Summit County, for us, it's Summit County Beekeeping Association. Canton is Stark, right?
Yeah.
Stark County Beekeeping
Wherever it
Association.
is,
Wherever your county is.
We got people who listen in Sweden, so
okay.
yeah, it could be wherever you want, right?
Okay, so if you're in Sweden, there's
got to be a local guild of people who get together to do this.
Yes, absolutely.
So just hook up with them, connect, find out where they meet, call them up, find their website,
absolutely,
and ask for help.
Right, and here's the tough part though. If you got somebody in the business who's doing it right, and most likely they're in demand, and most likely they're really busy. So there's a catch-22. If you want someone who's actually doing it right, they're less available. Yeah. So, that's in my situation. People hit me up all the time, like maybe 8 years or 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I could help, but not now.
So, I've heard about splits, right? So I need a mentor, I get a mentor, I need his time's worth something. So I may have him come or her come and help me with my hive. And in exchange for that, they're going to take a 40% share of the split back for them or something. Is that a common thing that you might hear of? Is going, all right, so I give a little time, maybe I get a little,
sure,
little bit of the results back.
Yeah, you can get creative. I've heard that go down. I mean, it's not uncommon at all.
Yeah. Don't think you're getting taken if that's where you enter into a relationship with somebody who's actually a really good mentor and is going to help you do what you do. That might be a thing you do for a year or a season or two.
This is what I did, man. I mean, check it out. For the first time in human history, we have the information library of the entire history of the world as we know it in our little in our phone, accessible from our phone in the cloud somewhere. So literally, you can go to YouTube and just like learn as much as you can. And it's smart to learn from different sources. Yeah. Know where their area's at and what challenges they have. Maybe they're in Georgia, so it's a different thing than up here in Akron, Ohio. But I mean, Googling it is very important. Yes, get a mentor. I think that's very important. For the emotional part of it, a mentor. There's been so many times, man, I'm just like, oh man, I just messed up. But they're like, you know what? It's okay. This happened to me last year too. I was like, oh really? I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. Yeah. So for those reasons, that's having a mentor is a really is a good thing to do.
Awesome. If anybody wants to reach out to you, can they do that?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
How would they do that? What's the right way to get a hold of Akron Honey or you?
Okay, so you go to on Facebook, Akron Honey. Just search Akron Honey. I'll come up. AkronHoney.com is the website. That is transforming. It's so crazy. Like, realizing where you're at and realizing where you need to be, it's a long process. I want it to happen right now, but we used to just be Urban Honey, but we're transforming into more of a flavor company.
So Ohio, I think, isn't unique in honey is one kind of product, and a cottage industry in Ohio is a different thing. Once you flavor it a little bit, right? So once you start flavoring it, it becomes you can sell it as a cottage product.
You can.
There's different ways to do that, right? But I guess what I'm saying is there could be different regulations depending upon your city, your state, your county, between honey and even something as simple as flavored honey. Right. That could be different. Right. So just be careful of that if you're...
beware. Just know what you're getting into. Yeah, it's like with anything. Know what you're getting into. I mean, that's all around, whether you're, in the production process or you're in the beekeeping process. Like, know what you're getting into before it happens, because once it happens, it's too late.
That's right. That's right.
It's too late.
And it's like anything we talk about on this podcast. I don't care if you're growing tomatoes, if you want to go pick up a firearm, if you want to do anything, you better do all your research before you get there, because it is an investment.
Yes.
It's an investment you might only make once and realize it's not what you want. But everything that you do to become more self-reliant, which is really what we're focused on, is best served if you do the education up front.
Right. And I was just thinking, I may have painted a little bit dark of a picture of, because it's like usually people just get all happy when they're talking about honeybees and, oh, this is the best thing ever. But like really, there's another side to it.
Yeah.
There's another side.
Is it the birds? We talk about the birds and the bees?
You talking about the birds?
We're not going to get into that today.
No.
All right.
Yeah, not doing that. But it's a little bit of a darker image, that I think I was painting. Sorry if it made it sound like it was a dark conversation, but it's a real conversation. You gotta know what you're getting into.
Well, and what's great from your perspective is you're coming from perspective of a lot of people who have jumped in too quickly, and you just wish you could have said, "Let me tell you these things before you go." Mm-hmm. And I think that's really what it is. It's a do it, go raise bees. That's a great thing to do, but be cautious. Mm-hmm. Of the most reasons that people look back and say that was a bad decision.
Yeah, and if they get into it for the reasons I was talking about, like, oh, they think it's about the honey or they're trying to save the bees, when they stop doing it, they won't acknowledge that
Gotcha.
Oh, that's, I got into it for the wrong reasons. They're just like, oh, it didn't work out. But just letting y'all know up front, those are a lot of the reasons why people get into it, and sometimes it'll work out. Some people jump into... Look, I can't talk. I was one of those people who just jumped into it.
But you learn those things along the way. And if anybody doesn't have to go through that to learn it, it just worked out for you.
Right. Because it's kind of like, bought this land, so now I have land, great. Yeah. But, now I have these hives. Oh, awesome. And I've got bees, great. But now I have to take care of the bees, and now I got a tax bill. Yeah. So what do I do now? Oh, I got to make money now.
Right.
So if you can, I'll say if you can borrow somebody's land, go ahead and do that first. That way you're not anchored into the thing. You can easily dissolve.
So you want to call me because I want bees, I just don't want to take care of them. Yeah. And I want to grow crops.
Yeah.
You come on over and you have your hive. You can borrow that. It's a good relationship. Form those things. And he's got no taxes he's got to pay. He just gets the honey. Right?
You get some honey. I mean, that situation happens. That arrangement happens often, where someone who really wants to save the bees, someone who wants to start a colony, the person who the colony has no land, the person who wants to save the bees has no bees, and they come together and they got honey. That's awesome. Then they've got the experience. That's cool. But how long is that going to last? I don't know. You never know. Like I've been here since 2013, man. Yeah. So it's been here for a while. Yeah. But I really can't talk. I jumped into it, but I had to find a way to make it work, and then it just kind of snowballed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Wesley, I can't thank you enough for helping us out and for taking a little time away from Akron Honey, and appreciate it so much, man.
I'm not away from it. I'm
this
right
is awesome.
Here. We're still in here.
We're here. We're doing it. So thanks, and thank you guys for listening. I hope that helped. I hope that you get a little bit about as you start your venture on getting into the honey, right?
I forgot something.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, okay. So I was telling you all about AkronHoney.com.
Yeah.
And on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
At Akron Honey. I'm not talking about age limits. At Akron Honey. And then email me at keeper@akronhoney.com.
There you go.
Keeper@akronhoney.com.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right. Keep them bees.